Yeah.
Recording.
Yep. Welcome to the Side Action, episode 4 of season 4. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So, Action, we'll talk about our big weekend in a minute, but how was the rest of your weekend?
It was good. We got out and went on the boat on Saturday. It was beautiful here, like upper 70s and really sunny. Probably, I'm guessing, the last weekend that we'll really get out and use it. So it was kind of like the last hurrah. We went out with a couple of friends and just parked in the cocktail cove and had drinks all day, which turned out great because Indiana lost, Purdue lost. Basically, my entire college football Saturday sucked. So it was a good reprieve.
That's good. That's
How was
good.
your weekend?
It was great. I had the last kind of tournament of the year on Saturday. Performed pretty well, very high level of competition. So it was good to kind of go against the big boys. A lot of these guys, 6'4", 6'5" dudes, just pounding the ball straight down. So it was definitely an interesting experience. I laid low on Sunday because I had this big retreat for work, which I will mention this part. Have a COVID scare. I'm used to that action. So apparently somebody tested positive that was in my close proximity. So I'm going to be sequestering myself for a couple of days here in the Edgewater studio and getting tested over the weekend to see if I can avoid the COVID bug again, even though I'm vaccinated. So, along with that retreat was awesome, but it was like nothing ever existed in terms of COVID. We were, you know,
Yeah.
karaokeing and drinking and doing car bombs and doing everything we always do at these things. So fun time, unfortunately. And what was funny about it, as I mentioned before the pod to you, is like my boss who was at the retreat got a totally different email. He did not get the "Hey, you were close" thing, and they're just like, "Just be aware." Whereas I'm the one like, "You were within 6 feet for at least 15 minutes or something," whatever they said. I'm like, okay.
You
It's,
got to watch out for Big Brother. They got eyes on you.
exactly. They've got a tracker on me right now. So anyway, well, we'll see what happens. But the important news, and we'll talk about it even more later. We went 4-1 in the contest, so
Woo.
awesome start so far. 7 out of 10 so far. We're excited about that. Let's keep the momentum going.
Yeah, it was a huge week. 4-1, now up to 7-3, which I think I know you have our records going back, but it's got to be the hottest start that we've had through 2 weeks in our 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think so. I think usually we go like 3-2, like 2-3, and we're like kind of 500, or sometimes we don't get a lot of pushes, I guess. But yeah, I don't think we've started this hot. So definitely let's keep it rolling and let's see what's happening. So let's
Well,
roll
now,
right.
I mean, you're going to be holed up in the apartment all weekend, so you can just research between now and tomorrow at 6 p.m. and we'll get all the picks, right?
I'm going to run all the algorithms. I'm going to contact all my correspondents in with the beat reporters in the various cities to get all the intel that
There you
you need.
go.
So let's roll into this. NFL Week 2. We had a lot of things go on. Underdogs are still killing it. Action 9-7 against the spread in Week 2. They killed it in Week 1, and the road dogs over the first 2 weeks are 13-4. That is monstrous.
Yeah, it's quite a big number for the road underdogs to be coming through at that clip. It's extremely impressive. And I think it's pretty clear to me that the home field advantage is really just dwindling every single time that I put my thoughts to it. I don't know how you feel about home field.
Yeah, it's weird. Conceptually, I don't understand that because I mean, I saw some huge crowds, really fired up people, but maybe just it's going to take a minute to get used to the crowds again for everybody. We don't have it as a note, but I will say that there are so many penalties in these games, and it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to watch. So I wonder at some point when that levels out, maybe that helps the home teams a little bit. I mean, we had the pick in Dallas, but in the Chargers, I mean, literally took points off the board, I think twice in that game
Mhm.
because of stupid penalties down in the red zone. So, who knows if that plays a factor. I'm not sure I mean, the emphasis on taunting is one thing, that's a one whole thing, but it's just flag after flag out there.
Yeah, that game in particular was hard to watch in the second half. And speaking of unders, I mean, you and
Sure.
I, the number last week rose from 51 to 55, and
Yep.
right out of the gate, it looked like they were going to fly over the total. And after 14-11 first half, it ended 17-14, which was remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, that would be one that really hit the under, even in the second half, because you figure it's going to score more points second half. They couldn't get anything on the board, and we could talk about the end of that game. It was in our favor, but
Right.
McCarthy sucks. I mean, just fire this guy. I mean, what is he doing? He's running the ball and without, I don't know what he was doing in that game, but
Yeah.
it's,
Despite the win from the Cowboys, I think that you have to take McCarthy even further down in the coaching hierarchy based on the decision making at the end was just unfathomable.
he's horrible. I mean, if you didn't have the penalties, and I mean, Herbert played okay. I mean, he had a couple turnovers there, but yeah, I think it's kind of weird. I think in the end we actually were on the wrong side. We won the bet, but
Probably.
we probably were on the wrong side of that one. Even though, I mean, I like Dallas. I think they're playing pretty good. It's just despite McCarthy.
Mhm.
Again, they had a better coach in there, they'd be really good. So to that point, it looks like it was a split this week with the totals. Unders 8 and 8. It was 8 and 8 basically this week. So a little bit of a shift, back to because I think last week was a lot of unders. But I also noted that road teams in general last week were 10 and 6 ATS. This included the favorites. So to your point again, the road teams are dominating right now. We'll see what happens in week 3. Maybe there's a switch. Now this note is interesting for you because this is kind of leading to our picks later. Um, Traditionally, 0-2 teams against the spread bounce back in a big way in week 3. You've
Mhm.
listed 60% over the last 11 years.
That's right. Yeah. So this year there's 5 teams that qualify for 0-2 against the spread. And remember, this is key because it's against the number, not necessarily the record that you'll see posted on ESPN or CBS.com.
Correct.
And those teams are the Atlanta Falcons, the New York Jets, the
Mhm.
Jacksonville Jaguars, and 2 teams that are surprising on this list are Kansas City, the Chiefs, and the Washington football team, both teams that you and I were high on coming into the season.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the Washington football team did get the win last week on Thursday night. It was kind of a weird game, weird
Mhm.
finish. The Giants kind of blew that game, and they actually didn't cover, but they won the game outright. Now the Chiefs, that was just a remarkable game, and that football game was exciting. But we were kind of on different sides of that one, and
Mhm.
my narrative worked out. But the Chiefs didn't have any problem scoring. It's just their defense, and that's what's happened in the first 2 games. The Browns destroyed them for 3 quarters in Kansas City. So that's going to be the big emphasis going forward. I do want to say, and we'll talk about it later, forgot this of note. The Jaguars are playing in London this week, are they not?
Really? That's news to me.
Because I was looking at it, I'm like, I can't find this game. Oh, it's at 10 in the morning, Central or whatever. Maybe it's Eastern. Let's just double check if I'm saying factual information to our loyal listeners. But yeah, that says noon.
Yeah.
Well, forget that. Forget that narrative. I was thinking they're playing maybe I heard it on Beasley that they're playing there eventually. Now they're in Jacksonville, so forget that.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they have 2 games in London this year,
They-
perhaps, but it might be a little bit further out in the schedule.
That's when we really want to count on the Jaguars because they're awesome in London.
I think that's a good narrative. I mean, we're going to talk about it later. I know you like the Jags, hint, hint, but I got to see them prove it first before I'm going to put my hard-earned cash behind them.
Right. Let's talk
So,
about some of the highs and lows from last week. The highs, my guy, King Henry, the guy just dominated 182 yards rushing, three TDs, mostly in the second half again. He had that big run in the second half, and man, Seattle just looked like they just wilted in that game.
mhm.
So, and they ended up coming from behind. I was shocked because early in that game, it was what 24-6 or something. They were getting pounded, and
Oh
then
yeah,
still didn't give up on the run. It wasn't that they weren't moving the ball though, I guess, in the first half. So,
they were. And Julio had a touchdown right at the end of the half. It should have been 6, but they
right.
overturned it conspicuously, and they ended up settling for 3. And they were down big at halftime. I was surprised that they came back in the second half, but Henry just wore them down apparently.
Yeah, that's Seattle defense. We'll see that, a little suspect. Your guy, I know he's on your fantasy team, Kyler Murray, 400 yards. My God, 3 TDs, rushing TD. He's had 2 interceptions, and they should have lost this game, right? Or no,
Mhm. Yeah,
they didn't. No,
yeah.
they won this game.
Well, yeah, they won, but they should have lost. The
Should have.
Vikings had a field goal to win it that missed, just like Vikings kickers always do.
That's right. The Vikes, he's within whatever, and I guess they covered the spread there, so they're not on our list up there. But we're one of the only 2 teams. 37-yard field goal. How does this team back-to-back lose? But on the positive side, Murray looks healthy. He looks great. That's 2 weeks in a row he's really played. I mean, it's hard to argue whether he's more dynamic than Lamar Jackson after Monday night, but who cares? They're 1 and 1A. They're incredible players. But how about your Derek Carr and the Raiders? I know our proxy loves this team. I know he's got the jersey, but he's been talking about it every time I talk to this guy. You're down on the Raiders. You're down. I'm like, yeah, they're playing great. They've been playing great the last 2 seasons. Let's see if they can sustain it. But huge game against that supposedly tough defense in Pittsburgh. 382 yards and 2 touches.
Yeah, I think relative to expectations, the Raiders were the biggest performance of the weekend, in my opinion. And Derek Carr specifically has thrust himself into the MVP race. Unfortunately, he picked up a little bit of an injury during the game, an ankle injury that looks like will potentially limit him a little bit against the Dolphins this weekend.
Okay. And note, America, that was our one loss, by the way. Thanks, Steelers. Mm-hmm. And then we just mentioned Lamar Jackson and in general, the Ravens, they did get the monkey off the back, beating Kansas City. 239 yards passing, 107 yards rushing for this dude, 3 touchdowns. He was unstoppable. And I will say about Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator, so creative. I mean, you watch the game. They're pulling out a guard to the right, pulling out a guard to the left, and Lamar Jackson's running right up the middle. So there's no blocking for the guy because they're making the linebackers flow. And I mean, it's impressive what they're doing on offense. I hope they can kind of sustain it in the playoffs because sometimes it gets jammed up. But it was fun to watch. Both teams were great to watch on Monday night.
Yeah, and I heard several reports post game on Sunday that Chris Jones apparently has played defensive tackle his whole career, and now the Chiefs have kicked him out to the end, and they just ran right at him because he had no idea what to do on some of those RPO plays, and they were just going by him every time.
Right. Made him look bad. On the low side, Miami's offense, boy. Now, obviously, Tua got knocked out of the game. He's got broken ribs, but even with Tua, they weren't good. And Jacoby Brissett, you know him well. He's been in Indy for a while. He didn't look so great either. I mean, obviously, you said it. You made this call. We stayed away from this game in the contest. Buffalo owns this team for some reason, and they destroyed them. Was the final 35-0 or maybe
35 zip? Yep.
Yeah.
And I wrote in here, Brissett clearly not as mobile as Tua. They ended up sacking him 4 times in the period that he was in the game. But I really do think the more that I thought about it, there's not a huge drop off from Tua to Brissett. And I think that's something that is key to the handicap this week against the Raiders.
Right. No, he's a solid backup, really good backup, one of the better backups in the league. The other lows we've already mentioned it, the Chiefs defense, you mentioned Chris Jones in general. In fact, if they didn't have the pick 6 early, and I think the Honey Badger had another pick in the game, that would have been, I think it was in the red zone.
It was.
That's essentially 14 more points that the Ravens could have scored. I mean, look, that defense can't stop anybody right now. Maybe the Shockers could score on the Chiefs right now if we can find a league to play in. That's
need a running back.
Exactly right. But they're not good. They're not
good. 32nd ranked, which is last against the run. Not good. Although, I mean, they did play probably the 2 best running offenses in the league so far. Cleveland's number 1, and Baltimore is certainly high up there on the list. So there is a little bit of opponent bias there.
That's good. Good point, Ashton. I like that. Zach, well, in general, the rookie quarterback struggled this week. Zach Wilson, particularly, which we took advantage of against the Patriots. He had 4 interceptions in this game. You're saying he leaps in the interception race. Why don't you tell everybody about your prop that you like to bet on each year with these rookie QBs?
I'm mad because I didn't bet it, but Trevor Lawrence is up there in his own right. I think he had 4 in week 1, and he followed it up with 2 more. So he's in the lead with 6, or maybe it's 5. Anyhow, these 2 guys are certainly going to lead the league. And I've been searching for interception props. Jared Goff last week, and I looked for these 2 guys this week, and they don't even offer one for Zach Wilson. You have to go over 1.5 if you want to bet on his interceptions.
Interesting. Yeah, he's definitely, he was trying to do too much. I mean, he didn't realize he wasn't playing, independent BYU against God knows team that they would play last year. I mean, we're talking about a Belichick defense, and he looked bad. Saleh was even like, sometimes you got to make the ugly play or the not fancy play to make it work, and you go from there. He'll bounce back. Lawrence, you just mentioned it. They haven't looked good in 2 games, with Jacksonville in this offense. He's trying to do a little too much as well. I mean, he's not being helped out by the running game very much either, but he had 2 more interceptions, as you mentioned. So, all those rookie quarterbacks, even our guy here in Chicago is going to start, Fields. He threw an awful pick six in that game that almost gave it away to the Bengals. But I had to put on here the Bengals, Joe Burrow. He did something as good as I know you're a Burrow guy. He threw 3 interceptions on 3 consecutive throws. I mean, that's like the first time in NFL history.
Yeah, that is an incredible stat. I didn't realize it until you put it on here, but that certainly helped out our pick last week. And
Yes.
thankfully, the Bears got that cushion because Justin Fields gave it right back when he entered the game.
Yeah. Rough, rough. They give up that big bomb. They're up 20 to 3, give up the bomb to Chase for like 650, 60. And then like 2 plays later, inexplicably, they're not running the ball. He doesn't see the guy dropping in the zone, throws it right to him, pick six. But they got out of it, got the win, and got us the cover. So thanks, Joe Burrow, for helping that out. Because one of those 3 was a pick six for the Bengals.
For Smith. And we talk about the freshmen and the sophomores who are throwing a lot of interceptions, but I got to add, my man Mac Jones has looked great for the Patriots so far. Hasn't thrown one yet, and knock on wood, hopefully he can maintain that for the Pats.
He's your man, huh?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be backing him. We can talk about that later, but I'm on the
Okay.
Pats again this week.
Okay. All right. So some of the injuries we mentioned too with the ribs, he's going to be out a couple of weeks. Brissett's in. Carson Wentz, give me a break. This guy, he can't stay healthy, but part of it is making stupid ass plays, by the way. So he's probably not going to play. Is that official? He's got both ankles sprained. Is he not going to play or what?
The latest I read on Carson Wentz is 50-50. And the line, I think, is probably shaded like right in the middle. It's 5.5 in the contest, I believe. And I really think that the drop off from Wentz to Eason is slight, 2 to 3 points. And it probably would be like 6 or 7 if we hear that Eason is announced as starter. But I think with Wentz, it's probably closer to 3. So it appears to me the odds makers just split the difference. And it echoes his actual status.
Right. Now, Easton didn't look great in that game, but he was okay, I guess. He threw a couple interceptions as well. Your guy, Ellinger, is on the IR. I don't know if you missed that. I don't think he's even able to play. So I don't know who their next quarterback is if Easton doesn't perform. Tyrod Taylor got knocked out. And it's funny, as soon as Taylor gets out, the Texans look respectable against the Browns. And then Taylor gets knocked out. All of a sudden, the Browns go up by 12 points or something, or 10 points. Davis Mills, the rookie, definitely not ready for prime time. I'm not sure if you're picking against him, but he's definitely not looking great. Were they playing Carolina tonight?
That's right. I am definitely picking against the Texans and will do so as long as Davis Mills is the quarterback.
He's garbage. We mentioned Fields because Fields was in because Andy Dalton for the Bears got hurt. I don't know if you saw the play, kind of didn't just run out of bounds. He kind of juked and his knee got weird. I don't even know what the status I don't think he tore anything, but he
MCL
definitely sprained. So that's kind of a mild thing, but it could be 3 weeks. So you got Fields has got his chance to take this job. He should keep it. You mentioned Derek Carr was playing. Ben Roethlisberger has a pectoral injury. Does that explain why that offense sucks?
I think it's just Ben Roethlisberger in general, pectoral injury or not. I think that he's washed up, and I do think that the quarterback is a major problem for the Steelers.
Yep, because Harris has been running hard. I don't know if the line's that good, but yeah, agreed. But on some of the other players outside the quarterback position, we've got Brandon Graham from the Eagles. He's out for the year, the defensive end there, Achilles. Jarvis Landry got an MCL sprain, which kind of hurts. That's your bless him guy. Bless him for the Browns. He'll be out a couple weeks. TJ Watt, this hurt the Steelers in this game. I think it hurt tremendously. He only played, I don't know if he played a full quarter and a half or so, but he hurt his groin. He doesn't look right. I know he had the holdout. He's going to have to get healthy for that defense to be where it needs to be. And then you have Antonio Brown, COVID positive. He played great again. So, I still think the Bucs will have a formidable attack. Maybe Mike Evans will catch a football.
Yeah, the Bucs is one team that can sustain an injury like this. I don't think the loss of Brown for one game is going to hurt them. They are 100% vaccinated, though. So as long as he's able to get 2 negative tests before game time, he'll be able to play even this week, potentially.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know. I put a few names up here for the power rankings, not doing the Wegs index till probably after week 4. But I've got the Bucks on top. I have the 49ers. It's kind of like it's hard to pick these teams right now, but 49ers I got as 2, the Rams is 3, Chiefs is 4, even though their defense sucks. And then I've got this quagmire at 5. A lot of people would say the Panthers should definitely be in the top 5. Well, I mean, they're going to probably romp again tonight, but the
Mhm.
Raiders, Broncos, and Panthers, to me, they're kind of on that same level. All teams are 2-0, playing really well. How does that match up against your DVOA and your own opinions?
Yeah, I put on here the DVOA with priors. They're still looking at last season's metrics, and it's got Bucks first, Chiefs are second, then Rams, Ravens, Seahawks, and Bills and sixth. And so a lot of the teams near the top are certainly matching up. Curious though that the 49ers aren't on the list. I think that the performance last week at Philadelphia was a really good one,
Mhm.
and it's something that I would question their not inclusion on this list.
Right. What was interesting about this list and in general with the 49ers, they didn't score in that game
True.
until I don't know, 35 seconds, 10 seconds to go in the half. They got the touchdown. So they definitely closed in that matchup. And I talked to most of my company are Eagles fans, so
Oh
they're
yeah.
upset. But the Eagles also aren't playing too badly. They played solid in that game. We'll see that matchup against Dallas will tell us a lot. Well, let's go into the lines this week. This is what we do. We go into the contest lines and then kind of look at it against the market and where we are leaning on certain games. Tonight, we already have said, we're probably looking at Carolina here. Obviously they're 8-point favorites. Now they're on the road. Is that what they are? They're on the
It's
road.
in Houston, right?
Okay.
Hmm.
So, the only thing I would say is 8 points is a lot for any team, but with Davis Mills, it's hard to say. This game opened at 4.5 and at 45-point total. So it's ticked down to 43 in the total. Consensus is 7.5, but the contest feels like it's going to be bet up, and it probably already is over this 8, isn't it?
I think it's still pretty painted at 8 across the board. Let me pull up my odds screen here, and I yeah, eights. There's 1-9 at sportsbook.com, but that's probably a teaser protection line because I think this is an ideal game for a teaser. If you take the Panthers down to 2 points, I don't see them losing tonight, and I do like them minus the 8 as well. I just don't think that Davis Mills is prepared to play quarterback in the NFL right now. He looked awful on Sunday when he came in for Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
And the Carolina defense has been performing well above expectations. They're number 1 ranked against the rush and number 2 against the pass right now in DVOA.
Right. Definitely an underrated team. Very popular survivor pick if you pick early. A lot of people are taking this team. Well, let's go
Mhm.
to the games. Obviously on Sunday, I screwed up with the Jacksonville thing. So Jacksonville's hosting Arizona. Arizona's a healthy 7.5 in the contest. They opened at 9.5. Kind of interesting. And it's been, started 46-point total and now up to 52.5. You know, I'm not saying I love the Jags. I don't, but it's a big number. I know the Cardinals played great in week 1, but
Mhm.
the defense didn't play so good in week 2. I mean, at least Minnesota moved the ball enough to win a couple times, I suppose. I don't think they have an answer for Kyler Murray, but 7.5 just seems like a big number. I just want to stay away from it in the contest. Maybe I can't. I know you're not going to pick Jacksonville the contest, but uh,
Yeah.
the 0-2 narrative coming home. Let's see what happens. So
Yeah, like I said earlier, I don't think that we can get behind the Jaguars in this spot, even at 7.5, which is a good number when you're looking at the hook. My concern is just the Jaguars' offensive line going up against Chandler Jones and the Cardinals' pass rush. I'm not sure that Trevor Lawrence is going to have a clean pocket at all in this game, and um, unlike Kirk Cousins last week, who had some success, I'm not sure that Trevor Lawrence is going to. And I did look up an interception prop in this. What would you say the odds are of Trevor Lawrence interception this weekend?
So you mean just any interception?
Yeah, over zero point 0.5 interceptions.
Oh, okay. Boy, I would say it's probably minus 300.
Oh, that's a good guess. 245.
Okay. Yeah, it's
So
pretty heavy to the yes on that one.
71%. of the time he throws an interception. And if that happens, it certainly will not help the Jaguars' cause.
That's right. That's right. Okay, let's go to the next game. This is a near and dear game to your heart. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. The Colts are going to Tennessee. Colts are one of those teams that are 0-2, and they definitely need to bounce back. They did, cover last week technically against the Rams, against the Titans, who, I mean, without that miraculous second half, would also be 0-2. This game opened at a 5-point favorite for Tennessee, 54.5 point total. It's all the way down to 48. That's got to be with Wentz, I guess. Still around that same 5.5 in the contest. It's 5.5. So it's tough action. I don't like this game at all. I think the Colts aren't going to be good with Eason, but this is a rivalry game. The Colts kind of have to win this game. Otherwise, I don't know if they even make the playoffs at 0-3 after losing, in the, obviously a big game in the division. That's on the road, but what is your take on this game?
I mean, I think the number is too high. I have to be honest. Despite Carson Wentz's potential injury, and even if Eason plays, I think the number is too high. These teams are really closer to even, and given the Titans 2 points for home field, I think it should be at least a field goal, and if not 2.5. So I really think that there's value on the Colts here. The Tennessee Titans have a really bad run defense, and I expect that Jonathan Taylor is going to have a big game. So I think that lessens the impact that Eason may have as a starter. And you mentioned he threw an interception. The Rams all-world cornerback just baited him into that one. I forget the guy's name, Ramsey. Thanks. And I think Eason was kind of put in a bad spot because Wentz caught a lot of heat for not returning to the game in the media, and they just kind of thrust Eason out there, and he threw that interception. So I think that the Colts have a lot of success in Tennessee too. They won and covered there last season, and they won both games against the Titans in 2019 as well. So, I mean, they certainly have their number. The Titans defense is really bad too. So I think there may be some value with the Colts, but maybe we color it yellow. What do you think?
Yeah, color it yellow. I mean, obviously, if Hilton was playing the game, he owns the Titans.
True.
Touchdown against these guys, but he's on IR. But Pittman played well last week. He played really well. I don't know if he played that well with Wentz or with both quarterbacks. I'm with you. It's a divisional game. Divisional road dog, 5.5. It's too many. It should be 3.5 or maybe 4. So
yeah, right.
All right, here we go. Baltimore, Detroit, another popular survivor pick for Baltimore. Baltimore traveling to Detroit, opened at 3.5. I'm not sure when they made that number, actually. 43.5 point total. It is up to 8 in the contest. You see 8.5 some places, and the total's up to 49.5, which kind of makes sense because Baltimore's going to score, and then Detroit will try to catch them. I don't know, it's weird. I love Baltimore. I think they're amazing. It's a little bit of a letdown spot in my view. So I'm not jumping all on board with the 8. I would probably pick them in Survivor. I think I have one more better pick we'll talk about later for that. But what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think that the number is a little bit too heavy. The Lions played pretty well on Monday night in the first half before the rain started, and Jared Goff just dropped the football all over the place. And I think that the Lions showed a lot of fight in both of their games so far. I expected them to be really bad, but you and I watched them in Vegas as they made the comeback against the Niners to cover. And I was actually impressed with Jared Goff and DeAndre Swift and the offense on Monday night in the first half. So I think that they're going to be feisty at home, and 8 points is a lot to lay on the road for the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. I don't know if I can back Detroit in a contest, but I think you're right on that.
Fair.
Okay, here we go. A couple of our darling teams. Washington's going to Buffalo. Washington opened as a 3-point favorite. Am I reading that correctly?
Yep.
And a 41.5 point total.
Oh, you're right. That number is odd. I'm not sure that's accurate. It must have gotten on the wrong side.
I don't know when that happened, but they're now a 7.5 point dog at the Bills and a 46 point total. It's tough. Washington got the win. It seems like people are back in Heineke, which, hey, he's a great kid. He's confident. I don't know. The Washington defense hasn't played the way we want them to, and the Bills certainly are a better team. It's a big number though. So, I mean, I have it on my card to back Washington. I don't know if I have the cojones to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking on the action app here. It looks like they're showing in the opener of 7. So that
Mm,
seems a little bit more reasonable. And
right.
obviously, at some point in the middle of this week, this number rose to 8 or 9 at
Hmm.
some books. And now currently you're looking at 7.5 across the board. So that leads me to think that there's some influential money in this market that are backing the football team
Right.
in this game. And I think that's probably warranted.
Hmm.
Um, Heineke has performed a little bit better than I anticipated since he came in as the starter.
Hmm.
But on the other side, the Washington football defense hasn't performed up to their expectations.
No way.
So that's something that gives me a little bit of pause. They're giving up 5.7 yards per play in the first 2 games against the Chargers and the Giants. And I think that the Bills might be able to move the ball on them. But, this is another team that's 0-2 against the spread. So they do fall into that category of a team that is hitting 60% over the last 11 years. So
Right.
I would consider putting the football team on our card.
Okay. Let's put it as a yellow.
Okay.
Put it as a yellow. See where we're at.
What do you make of Josh Allen's performance through the first 2 weeks? He's certainly not playing up to the high bar that he set last year.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously had massive expectations, like he was going to be, Patrick Mahomes this year, right? Or a
Hmm.
combination of Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. He was the next MVP. They haven't come out of the gates well. They definitely closed in that game against Miami. They did what they needed to do, and then they just kind of pounded on them later
Hmm.
when who was out. So I think they're getting right, but maybe being the front runner is a little different for this team. And I mean, he connected with Diggs, which is what he needs to do. Diggs is his key guy in that offense. But the other guy that needs to play well for them is like Cole Beasley, right? He had that amazing year last year. And I just feel like, he's got to remember, he's got to go deep and short. He's got to put it all over the field. So I don't think he's meeting expectations, but I expect him to bounce back.
Fair.
The next game is New Orleans and New England. Traditionally, this would be a really great game. I'm not sure. It opened as a pick, I guess, 46.5 point total as the teams played, which is funny. New Orleans was way up, way great, and they were terrible last week against Carolina. You've got this New England being the 3 point favorite and a 42.5 point total, very low total, which we could talk about that too. It sounds like you're on the Patriots. I'm staying away. Actually, I'm afraid of this game. I think that you know Peyton is going to rise to the challenge against a guy who's a
Mhm.
great coach. I'm not saying that they're going to win the game. I just feel like they're going to have a good game plan. I don't know what happened last week. I know that they had the 5 injuries, 5 injuries on defense, and the 8 coaches with COVID. So I
Yeah.
don't know who was in the building, but sounds like you're back in New England though.
Yeah, I saw that in your blog post about the defensive injuries. I guess I wasn't aware of that. Were those starters last week that were
Yeah,
missing?
Lattimore didn't play. I have to go through the list, but tons of people didn't play. I don't know what the deal was. Like they thought they could just roll out there against Carolina, but yeah, lots of guys missed the time.
Yeah, certainly something that we should check into on the Saints injury reports here if we're even considering this. It sounds like I'll have to talk you into it, but I, this is a game in New England, and I've just been something that I've been trying to incorporate into my handicapping so far this season is to look at the market sentiment where a line opens early in the week and then where it gets driven to by game time because in my mind, that's the most efficient number. You have hundreds and thousands of people who are betting on these games, and the numbers essentially get pounded into place, and would give me some indication how the sharp NFL handicappers have an expectation for a team.
Right.
And the Patriots have seen a number move in their direction in both weeks now. They opened 2.5 against Miami. It went to 3.5. And then last week against the Jets, it went from 4 to 5.5. And
Right.
again, this week, you see a number that opened at Pick'em, and now they're 3 point favorites, which tells me that the Patriots are catching a lot of attention from sharp bettors every week.
Hmm.
So,
It's probably the defense.
yeah.
I mean, and obviously with Jameis playing like he played pretty poorly last week. The team played terribly, but he played poorly. He doesn't make the team go, but they probably figure they can stop the run with Kamara.
Right. Yep.
But I just wonder if the Saints defense, which didn't play great last week, if they're going to play better this week. You know what I mean? They have a good enough defense to trick the young guy, and also they're going to try to stop the run. And New Orleans is pretty good against the run. And last week,
They
you got
are.
a runner, McCaffrey, who had a great game. So I'm just a little worried about it going with New England. I understand why you go that way. It makes sense, but I'm
Mhm.
just feel a little squeamish on
Yeah.
that. Yes.
I think also we touched on this early before the season started. The Saints have an issue with their travels in the Superdome. And
Sure.
this is going to be the third game in a row on the road to start the season. And
Mhm.
I don't know if you saw the videos this week, but apparently there was a fire in the roof of the Superdome. And so it doesn't sound like they're going to be back there anytime soon. And I
Right.
just wonder if mentally they're going to eventually get drained from just being on the road week in and week out.
Oh yeah, that's definitely going to happen, no question, over the course of the season. So I mean, it could be a beatdown. They could just show up, and that's kind of what happened in Carolina. I was just surprised it was going to happen with Carolina. But this Carolina team may be sneaky good. We will see. Rule has gotten his group. What they were talking about on the radio about Carolina was that last year they went heavy defense, and all those young players are playing at a really high level. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens. This will be, to me, a very important game for the Saints going forward to figure if they've got some heart and doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Very true.
let's turn to the marquee game in the 1 o'clock window here. This is the Chargers going to Kansas City. Huge AFC West matchup. Kansas City opened as an 8-point favorite. They are at home, 46.5 point total. I don't know where that 46.5 came from because you never have a Chiefs game that low, but it's up to 55.5 now. And the Chiefs are now down to a 6.5 point favorite for the contest and basically consensus. Wow, I'm looking forward to this game. First of all, action. So, I'll be COVID quarantined, which is great. So I'll be sitting right here watching. But what do you make of this game? Like, it's weird. The Chargers, still blow an early, a one score game there, and in kind of weird fashion with the penalty, especially late with Jared Cook, not just with the taunting, but there was a legal shift on that play. The
Mhm.
weird sack call that he wasn't even in the grasp. I mean, it was just bizarre. But in the end, the Chargers are playing pretty good football. Kansas City's not. But this is a game for Kansas City to flex their muscles. 6.5 seems like a really good number for this game, actually. So I was thinking it'd come a little higher, like the 8 or 7.5 could go on the Chargers, but I don't know if I could pick either side here.
Yeah, I I think that the number is pretty close to where it should be. I do think it's a little light though.
Mhm.
Um, I Kansas City really should have won the game on Sunday night if it weren't for Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's fumble. They would have been in field goal range, and presumably Butker would have nailed it. And then I wonder what this number would have been had the Chiefs won. Are we looking at 7.5 or 8, maybe?
Right.
And so for that reason, my initial reaction was that I think that there's value on the Chiefs. And I think that they're going to be extremely motivated in this game too, coming off the big loss to the Ravens. They're going to want to right the ship and get off to the right foot in the division too. This is their first division game of the season. Um, they have not been good against the spread though. 1-11-1 against the number in their last 13 games.
That's right.
So they're certainly on a streak of downward proportions when you're talking about the number. And I really do think though that if we were to play it, I would only want to look at the Chiefs. Not
Yep.
sure how you feel.
No, I agree with you. It's Chiefs or pass. The number's too good for them. If it again, that 7 being a critical number, 7.5, I could get on board maybe with the Chargers, or 8 for sure. But 6.5, it's like you can see a touchdown. I mean, they were scoring at will against the Ravens. I mean, I know the Ravens are a little depleted, but
Yeah,
Chargers defense has been pretty good. I mean, they've held down the two NFC East teams, but
right.
they also should have given. I mean, that game was a weird game. It was a
Yeah.
weird game. There were a lot of points taken off the board on both sides.
The Cowboys ran all over them too. I think between Pollard and Zeke, I think they rushed for 200 yards.
They
Do you
did.
think that the Chiefs are willing to run against them and maybe give Edwards-Helaire a little bit more touch this week to get the ground game going?
I am not sold on Edwards-Helaire as a running
Yeah.
back. I had a conversation with our buddy Aaron Mina, who big fantasy guy. He's like, what do you think of, you're buying low on Clyde Edwards-Helaire? I'm like, I don't think he's got it, man. I mean, he's not showing it to me. It's certainly a buy low because the guy can't get it done. So I think they should run the ball, absolutely. But I don't know if they've got the horse for it. We'll see if maybe they put in the backup. He's a bigger guy, can run the football, but we'll see what happens. I mean, the Chargers, they probably dedicated so much to the pass, so you could run the ball. They really should. You're right. They should get the ball to Helaire a lot. So I don't know if I can go yellow on this, but we can maybe we might be able to talk me into the Chiefs on Saturday morning.
Okay. All right.
The next one is another one of these 0-2 against the spread teams, right? Atlanta against the Giants. Isn't that right?
That's right.
2.5-point favorites for the Giants at home. 43-point total is the opener. It's up to 3 now in the contest. 48-point total. I put Atlanta initially. I don't know, like my stomach just turned a little bit. I kind of threw up in the back of my mouth just then. I don't know if I can do it. They did score quite a bit early in the game against the Bucs, but then was it 2 pick six, and then that's all she wrote. So they obviously didn't get the cover there. What are your thoughts on this game?
I think that the number's too big for what the Giants are right now, and I think that there's value on the Falcons.
Right.
They finally got Kyle Pitts involved on Sunday. I was happy to see that. 6 targets, 5 catches, and 73 yards, and that's against the Bucs, who are supposedly this formidable defense. Obviously, their pass defense is a little bit gives up a little bit more than the rush defense. But I also think that the Giants are going to have a hard time running the ball against the Falcons. And Saquon Barkley did have that one big run last week, but I think you noted in the notes that Daniel Jones is their leading rusher right now.
Yes.
So, the Giants have 10 days rest. They played on Thursday night the week before. But I think getting 3 points here, I think this number really should be 2.5. And for that reason, I think that there's a little bit of value taking the Falcons +3. You also have the opportunity for a push, which is certainly better than a loss.
That's right. We know that. Talk to our primetime Murphy on that. Go ahead and vote that as a yellow, even though
Okay.
I can't believe I'm suggesting that. So here we go. The next game is, the Justin Fields starting debut. Bears go to Cleveland. And I guess, do you think that this was open? Is this right? The Chicago opened as a 3.5-point favorite, or is that miswritten down?
No, that's got to be wrong. Yeah.
So
Las Vegas insider failed us today.
Yeah. Let's say Cleveland opened up as a 3.5-point favorite and a 50-point total, but it's up to 7 now, 46.5-point total. So the total's a little bit depressed. Browns at 7, obviously opens up for the push again in this one. I don't know if I can back the Bears here. I was all on them last week because I know they weren't going to lose, can't lose. It's not that the Bears can't stop the run, because they can. I think they can stop the run, but I just worry about this team against, although the Cleveland hasn't played a good defense, but his start, the first start, I wasn't that impressed with him. He's going to have to run for his life. Fields is going to have to do it. And, I'd probably bet against the rookie on the road in his first NFL start.
The look-ahead number on this game last week was Browns 9.5.
Oh, came down.
And so now the switch from Dalton to Fields, and we're looking at a 7, 2.5-point move. Do you think that the move from Dalton to Fields results in a 2.5-point increase for the Bears?
No.
Okay, me neither. I think that there's value with the Browns here. I think that Fields is, the Browns defense has been performing very well this year, despite playing the Chiefs offense in week 1. And obviously the move to Mills last week certainly helped their numbers. Yes. But I think you're right. I think that Fields could be in for a long day on Sunday. And I also think on the other side that the Browns are going to be able to run the ball a little bit. So I think that there may be some value on the Brownies.
Okay. Boy, we're having a lot of yellows on this one.
No slam dunks yet. Hopefully we'll get one.
Let's put another yellow on the board. Let's go to the next game. This is an AFC North matchup. The Bengals are going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh opened as a 6.5-point favorite, 47-point total. It's down to 3.5, 44-point total. I was really hoping for the 3.5 here, by the way,
Mhm.
because I was back in the Bengals initially when I saw the hooks early in the week. Um, Cincinnati's playing not that bad. I mean, Burrow had those three bad plays. The defense is playing surprisingly better, and this is a divisional game. Now, three is really a good number for the Steelers, but they're not playing all that great. They played so well in week one defensively, but their offense has stunk. Do you think this is the get right game for the Steelers on offense?
No, I don't think so. I think this game has all the makings of a pretty low scoring affair.
Hmm.
Um, and I was looking at the look aheads for this game as well, and it was Steelers 4.5. And now, presumably, just based on the Roethlisberger injury news, it's down to 3.
Hmm.
I did see that Deontay Johnson still hasn't practiced this week, and I think that is going to be a major factor, as well as TJ Watt, you mentioned earlier,
Yep.
certainly a factor in this game too. But I'm not quite sure that I'm ready to back the Bengals yet either.
I know. I know. It's okay. We'll wait when Joe Burrow covers again. Uh,
Okay.
he didn't cover last week, but it took a lot. How about this one? This is in the next window, the 4 o'clock window. The Dolphins are going to the Raiders. Raiders have been red hot. They open at 1.5 at home, 48.5 point total. They're all the way up to 4 in the contest. Consensus says 3.5 with a 45 point total. Looks like a little bit of those, predictive lines by Circa.
Mm.
But I am on the Raiders here. 4 is a bad number. But Miami with, well, you're on Miami, huh? You like the stat? Of course you
Yeah. I think this number is way up. I mean, the Raiders have been great. They're 2-0 and they won 2 games, but they were playing in the underdog role in those games.
are.
And
Mhm.
now they're coming back home after a huge win on the road in Pittsburgh, and they
Sure.
have to lay 4. And I think that number is too big. I think it should be 3. And for that reason, I think that there's value on the Dolphins, even with Brissett at quarterback.
So what happened to the Dolphins defense last week? I mean, I was all on board with the Dolphins because I thought that they would keep the game close and too obvious they can grind the game, but defensively they couldn't even get there. They were getting beat by Buffalo.
Mhm.
The Raiders, it's hard to say this, but I think the Raiders offense is just as good as Buffalo right now. They're going to score some points in this game, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a factor of short fields. I'm trying to pull up the box score here. I,
Okay.
if I recall, I think there was a couple of early turnovers in that game.
Hmm.
Brissett threw a pick himself, and it gave the Buffalo Bills a couple of short fields, which they cashed in on. I don't think that Buffalo put up a ton of yards on them.
Right.
So, I mean, despite the score line, which looks awful lopsided, I don't think that the yardage was, I'm getting here now. Total yards, 318 yards for the Bills.
That is not
So they weren't moving the ball up and down the field. It was probably a lot closer game than the box score indicates.
okay. So your turnovers were, well, 3-2. Penalties, 83 yards for Dolphins. Okay. Hmm, tough. And yeah, it looks like, yeah, I mean, Josh Allen, 17 for 33 in that game. Not great as I look at the box score, only 179 yards. Well, it's a tough one, man. I don't know if I can be talked into it. We'll see. I don't know. I have other games that I think I'm a little more favorable to, but how strongly do you feel about that?
Not super strong. I mean, I would potentially color it yellow, but I'm not sure that I would feel higher on it than some of these others that we've already talked about. I do think that the Raiders are going to have fans there. I don't think the Miami fans are going to travel to Las Vegas for the
They
big
don't go to
Dolphins
the
game.
games in Miami, bro.
Right. Right. So I think this is one week, much like in week one, it turns out the Raiders had the home field advantage with the crowd.
Right.
And, that's another a little tick to the side of the Raiders. But I think that the 4 is just too high. I think this is going to be a close game.
Yeah, 4 is a bad number, certainly. Okay, let's get to the other one. This is another gangbuster team with this amazing schedule. The Jets go to Denver. Denver's 2-0. They've played very well. They open as a 7.5 point favorite, 42.5 point total, all the way up to 10. Consensus says 10.5 with a 41 point total. That's too many points. I mean, I'm picking the Broncos for Survivor. Full disclosure, everybody's on the Survivor pool who listens, but one person. So I think the Broncos should win this game. But this is one of those games that you think the Broncos are good. They host this team, and then somehow the Jets are got them in a dogfight in the fourth quarter because it'll be a low scoring game. He says it right now, 41 point total, 10-point margin, right? I mean, that's crazy. What's the expected totals? Like 21, like what is it? 24 to 14 or something like that? Yeah, something like that. You know what I mean? So, 19 to 9. It's going to be a
25-15.
really short game. It's going to be like you can get an easy backdoor cover for the Jets in this one.
Yeah, the back door could be open, definitely. And, you talked about it last week too, that Teddy covers mantra is really also in the underdog role.
Mhm.
And I I don't have a database in front of me, but I can pretty damn well be sure that you can count on one hand how many times Teddy Bridgewater has been a 10-point favorite in a football game. So,
Yeah, very rarely.
I agree. I think the number's too big, but I am definitely not backing the Jets here.
Oh yeah,
Old Zach Wilson is going to be in for a long day with that Broncos front.
yes.
Although the loss of Bradley Chubb, I think, is going to be a huge factor for this Broncos pass rush.
Mhm.
Him being on the other side of, and I can't remember the other pass rusher, but Chubb is certainly one of the big players on this defense, and that loss is going to be key.
Yeah, Von Miller's the other guy.
Miller, thank
So
you.
yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, I tell you. But I think Wilson's gonna have to run the ball in this game. He's gonna have to do short little passes, and I think the Jets defense, they didn't play great last week, but they weren't terrible either. I think Salah's gonna have them up for this game. So I'm not saying you got to back the Jets, but this is one of those 0-2. They didn't cover either week, right? The Jets.
Correct.
We'll see. We wouldn't be surprised if it comes in because of the cover, because of the number.
They haven't come close to covering either. It's not like they were close.
14 in week one. They went for two that would have
Oh,
got
that's true.
covered. They were three and
I
a half dogs, I think, on the road. So they would have covered with that 2-point conversion from
I
whatever.
stand corrected. You're right.
So here's the like another big marquee game in the 4 o'clock window. The Bucks, Tampa Bay are going to the Rams in LA. The Rams open as a 2.5-point favorite in this one. 52.5-point total. Total's up to 55. Consensus says that the Bucks are the 1-point favorite now. Our contest says 1.5. I'm on the Rams here, dude, and I'm not a Stafford backer at all. I don't like him at all. But I don't like, well, first of all, the line moves pretty large. At least that opener is correct. We don't know, but um, the Rams defensive front can get after Brady with the 4, and the Rams I think can score on this team unless Tampa's going to all of a sudden start playing defense. I don't know when are they going to start playing defense action.
Yeah, I mean, well, they performed pretty well in week one. Remember the against the Cowboys, a few key turnovers gave the Cowboys some short fields. So I think the final score in that game was a little bit misleading. But I keep going back to last year's game when the Rams came into Tampa on a
Yep.
Monday night and they beat them 27-24.
Mm-hmm.
And there certainly potentially is some matchup advantage, and that was with Goff at quarterback too,
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly.
So I think there could be some matchup advantages there, but I also think that Tampa Bay has this game circled because of that one last year, and I've already bet the Bucks. I think that the Rams defense is not as good as they have been historically. Through 2 weeks, they're giving up plenty of yards, 340 per game. And last week, the Colts got into the red zone at least 3 times that I can remember in the first half, and they couldn't get it into the end zone. And
Right.
so I think that in that game and also in week one, the Bears moved the ball on them as well. Dalton looked pretty good, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the Rams dropping in their defense may not necessarily make up for the positive gain that they made with the quarterback change.
Okay. Opposite sides again, action. So I guess we're
Yeah.
we're not taking this game. Um,
Yeah.
but
I'm okay with that, honestly.
yeah, yeah, that's okay. Okay, can I interest you in a Minnesota Vikings
Oh,
game?
yeah.
Seattle playing at Minnesota. Seattle opened as a 2.5-point favorite on the road, 51-point total. It's up to a 55.5-point total. These defenses stink. 1.5 point favorite now in the contest and consensus for Seattle. I like Minnesota. I don't know why. They got to win a game at some point. They should have won two so far, or at least one of those two. I
Mhm.
think they're going to win this game outright, only because they're not going to go 0-3. In Seattle, look, they got a great offense. We know Wilson can, Russ can cook, but this defense is suspect. And unless Minnesota, I mean, what do you think the difference between Seattle's defense and the Cardinals' defense is? It can't be that much, right?
No, yeah, I agree. I think you're right on. The Seattle defense is not very good. They they looked good in the box score against the Colts in week one, but last week they gave up a ton of yards to that Titans defense. Even though we talked about in the first half they couldn't punch it into the end zone, the Titans really came to play in the second half with Derrick Henry, and I think that Dalvin Cook is going to have a big game this week against the Seahawks as well.
Right.
And I'm right there with you. I think that the Vikings is maybe a slam dunk pick for us.
Right. Hey, we got a green one.
Yeah.
We got a green one. Even though in our original write-up it was two, 1.5 is not a great number, but two is it's about the same, I suppose, in the NFL.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know what the number is currently as we speak. I mean, I'm seeing some ones here
Mhm.
already pop up. So I think by game time, you might see this at a pick 'em or potentially even the Vikings as a short favorite.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, so the Sunday night game is, a matchup we've seen many times. Green Bay is going to San Francisco. San Francisco has been on the road for the first two games, their first, home game, but maybe it means nothing in this modern NFL. They opened as a 2.5 point favorite at home, 45.5 point total. Totals all the way up to 49, and the contest is 3.5. Hate the hook, but San Francisco's owned this matchup. I don't know if there's any difference. There's been some injuries, I'm sure, for San Francisco, but Green Bay, they struggled against Detroit in the first half, and they looked terrible in week one. So, I mean, I still like the 49ers. I don't know if it's a contest pick, but I definitely would back that side, not Green Bay.
Yep. I'm right there with you. I was really hoping to see a three in this game too, but I think that the final contest number is pretty indicative as to where they see the money going in this matchup.
Hmm.
And I've been watching this one really closely all week because I thought it would be super telling to see what happens between the number and kickoff, whether it sticks at that three. It's really hovered between 3 and 3.5 all week,
Right.
and um, the the fact that the line hasn't moved quite yet, I think, is really indicative. I mean, despite 70% of the bets on the Packers, you're still seeing that number at 3.5.
Right.
And so I think that the Niners are going to be the side here, and the historic numbers against the Niners have been really bad for Green Bay, and they don't play well on the road either, especially in California. Remember, 2 years ago they went to the Chargers and they got shellacked.
Hey,
So,
we talked about the Sunshine States. Come on,
yep.
we're in California. They can't get it done there. So
Mhm.
this is prime time, even though it's not going to be. It'll be sunny when they start the game. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think the Packers, I think the Packers rush defense is going to be a problem as well because San Francisco, is going to be ready to run on them.
right, right. Okay. Hey, we might. I don't know. We pencil this in green, or we going yellow here?
I think we could pencil it in green. We
All
can
right.
talk about it more on Saturday morning, but I think I'm not sure if this is going to be a popular pick. That's the only hesitation I have. Do you see a lot of the contest players going on the Niners?
It's hard to say what the contest is doing right now because last week they picked some games, opposite of us, which it worked out for us. That's why we jumped in the standings. But to me, it's a clear pick for the 49ers. But that half, maybe, the hook may push people off the number, push people off the pick. So
True.
we're okay.
Okay.
All right. So the Monday night game, you got Philly against Dallas. This is a big, NFC West or NFC East matchup. Dallas opened as a 3.5 point favorite, 52.5 point total. It's basically there right now. Consensus says 4. Contest is 3.5 for the Cowboys, 51.5 point total. I mean, should be a great football game. Divisional dog that would tell you to take the Eagles with this number. I don't know if I can do that, but I'm happy to stay away here. I originally put Dallas in this one. We think they're the better team, but that divisional road dog, I keep hearing, Applebaum always talks about that shit. He's always talking about the division road dog and taking the number. But
Mm.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I initially, when these numbers came out, thought I would find myself on the Eagles side as
Mhm.
well with Josh Applebaum in the road underdog narrative.
Mhm.
But the more I looked into the numbers, especially last week, I think that the Eagles, I wasn't quite as impressed with their offense as I expected them to be. And we talked about how the Eagles were a really sharp play last week, and I think
Mhm.
that was one of the consensus picks that lost
Yes.
in the contest. And
Oh,
I think they had like I counted like 338 yards in that game, but 90 of those came on the one play before the half that Hurts threw the bomb down to the other end, and they ended up not scoring on that drive. But
right.
uh, despite that play, the Niners only gave up like 240 yards in the whole game to the Eagles, and
Right.
so I think that Dallas's defense showed us a little something last week too against the Chargers, and then on the other side, I mean, Dak Prescott has been excellent this year. So and Tony Pollard broke out as well. So
Yeah.
long story short, I talked myself into staying away from it.
A lot of blah blah for nothing.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could see Dallas, but I don't know about 3.5. Yeah.
Right. 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 Okay. Sounds good. Well, we've written down some here. We've yellowed out some others. Just to review, so we're on the opposite sides of the calendar. We're not gonna. I won't even mention the Jags game. You originally liked the Cardinals. I like the Jag to take off of that one. You definitely like the Patriots. I'm feeling weird about it. Feeling squeamish because I think the Saints are going to play well. We're
Okay.
both on the Vikings here.
Yep.
It's an ugly dog, but it's a home dog, and they've got to win. We both have talked about Atlanta as definitely maybe could get on board, being the dog on the road because the Giants aren't that impressive. Uh,
Hmm.
we are opposite sides here. Are we? Are you
On the
opposite
Tampa
sides?
game.
Oh yeah, we're opposite sides of the Tampa
Yeah.
game, of course. It sounds like you might be able to get on board with me in Washington, the 7.5 at Buffalo.
I do. I just real quick, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. I think that Washington might be a popular play this week. So
Okay,
we'll have to consider that on Saturday morning.
might take that off. The Bengals at Pittsburgh, I do think that's a pretty good play at the +3. That seems like a good game for us. Um, Little bit, do we opposite on the Raiders? Yeah, you like Miami in that game.
I do.
You do. So we're opposite on that one. And then we did mention the greens at the end here. The San Francisco we like against Green Bay didn't even make the list. So it sounds like we're kind of staying off the Dallas Philly game, even though we think Dallas is better. So
It looks like you like Dallas here. You didn't mention that earlier.
I do like
Okay.
Dallas, but that divisional road dog thing, and like,
Yeah. Don't
God,
let
it's
Applebaum scare you.
what's that?
I
Oh,
said, don't let Applebaum scare you.
he's always with the dogs, but the
Yeah,
dogs have been barking, so he's not wrong.
true.
Well, we'll have
That just
certain
means that it could be a favorite bounce back week.
Yes. Well, at some point it's going to happen, and it
Mm-hmm.
usually happens more like week 7 and 8.
Hmm.
You'll have a lot of dogs for 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden it's favorite, favorite, favorite. It's also, for our listeners that follow us or are trying to get better at this, you got to understand that the books are smart. They're doing numbers like us, so they're adjusting the lines every week. We're trying to figure it out. You'll find as the season goes on, the lines get sharper and sharper. They're right on the number, very close
Oh
to
yeah.
them. They are for the most part early, but you're not going to get a week where 11 dogs are going to come in week 16 or 15. It's not going to happen. It's just they get better at their job just like we do. So just so you know, you might start off hot and you could cool off at the end of the season. So, well, let's talk about the contest action. That obviously through 2 weeks, that's 10 picks. You've got 12 entries at 10-0, and you've got another 70 at 9-1. But we're right in the hunt. We're doing pretty well. We went 4-1 with this week. We're 7-3 overall. We're tied for 345th place. It's a pretty good spot for us. I'd have
Hmm.
to go back. I don't know if I tallied where we were at every week, but that's certainly a good start for us. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm feeling good. I hope that we can keep this train rolling. I think that both of us have some renewed focus here to start the season,
Right?
and we're looking at games in different ways, and I think that we're trying to zig while the contest zags. So keep that up, and we'll maintain our pace and see if we can get a quarter prize.
That's right. I mean, I think that's a big thing. We talk about this for the people who are in the contest want to learn about it. we do try to stay away from the top 5 picks if we can. Sometimes it burns us because if obviously they come in and we don't, then we're in trouble. But if we pick the same as a contest, we're not getting anywhere, right? We're going to stay where we're at. You're never going to move up. And oftentimes there is a little bit of groupthink out there, right? So there's people thinking, like we talked about that Eagles game, and I almost talked us into that. So thank you, Action, for getting me off the ledge. But we stayed away from it. It came in a loser. They all hit, and they what did they go 2-2-1 or 2-2-3?
I think it was 2-3 last week. Yeah, the Steelers were on there too.
That's when we can move up in the contest quickly. So nice work, Action. Let's keep it going. Well, I'm excited for the weekend, and hopefully you guys are following us and actually winning some bets. I know Suter he keeps texting me. I don't know if he knows we're doing it right now. We wanted to talk about that Justin Fields rushing prop, which started off as 41.5 and now is up to 49.5. It's like getting like crazy in his first start. But we do have some listeners that are active bettors and listen to us.
Yeah, I didn't even think about Justin Fields rushing prop. I was looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire against the Chargers going over this week. I also think that Antonio Gibson of the Washington football team was a little bit low as well against the Bills.
Sure. That opens the door. We can talk a little more about props another week, I suppose. But
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right, everybody. Well, good luck this week.
Peace out, y'all.